Well, hi, folks, and good evening. Thanks so much for spending a little bit of time with me. I am grateful, appreciate it. I'm coming to you live from Tampa, Florida. I am down here with Sharon, the producer, over there, and we're here for the big evening tomorrow night at the KelbyOne Gallery, where my aviation exhibit is going to be opening up. So I'm really excited, and that's kind of why we have the topic we do tonight. Now, a little bit of business. Remember to sit there and to subscribe. You'll get notices from me via YouTube when I'm going to be doing one of these live broadcasts. And I really would enjoy you being here as much as you can, and of course, spreading the word. And remember that you can find me many different places: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all at Moose Peterson, and of course, the website, moosepeterson.com. And if I could be assistance, remember, moose@moosepeterson.com is my email address. So, there you have it. All right. So, DM coming. Hey. Does that mean you're from Canada? I appreciate you coming by. So, let's just get right into tonight's topic, getting your photographs noticed. So, how do you do that? Well, first and foremost, understand that what I'm talking about is not just getting noticed, but in the long run, actually making money from getting noticed. It's kind of the long-term thing. And what do I mean by long-term? So first and foremost is that it took me 6 years before I got published when I started out. It's kind of a long-term kind of thing. And that's what I want to talk about, because that's how I got to be where I'm in a hotel room in Tampa doing a live broadcast. So, I see here, David. Thanks for the congrats, and it's really was a really kind of an honor, and I appreciate KelbyOne's support and doing this. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow night. Now, when it comes to getting your photographs noticed, the first thing you have to keep in mind is it's all about the photograph itself, right? I mean, you've got to have that great photograph. Now, when I say the word great, that's not really accurate. It's not very honest. You have to be a good photograph. It's really important to understand that in photography, it's the great business people you see out there in print all the time, not the great photographers. Now, how many times have you picked up a magazine and looked at the photograph, and you see a picture, you go, ugh, I could do better. Or, more importantly, I've got better. How many out there have had that experience? Raise your hand. Yeah, I can't see you raise your hand, but I'm assuming you're along with me. Now, with that in mind, understand that getting published, okay, a lot of people say, I can't do it. Or, I don't want to do it. Or, I don't need to do it. And those are all very valid things, okay? But in this process of getting your photographs noticed, believe it or not, the editorial world is going to do it faster and more often with more consistency than any other means. So what are the means? Well, the one that most photographers think about is the social world. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Now, can you get published from those things? Of course you can. You know, that happens. Can you get consistently published from those things? I've not read about, heard about, seen, or been told about anybody who consistently gets that way. Now, some photographers use that as a way to brand themselves. Some photographers use that as a means to continue a relationship with clients. But getting established, it first takes that photograph, and then it takes you reaching out to the client. And that's the first biggie, okay? And that's really important when it comes to understanding how to get noticed. Let me see here. I got some people coming here. Hey, Craig. Hey, appreciate you coming by. So how do you get yourself noticed by what I just call photo buyers? Because understand that the way that Sharon and I grew our business for 40 years, and to this day still grow our business, is editorial. Editorial is everything. So for example, the book takeoff, which led to the exhibit that's opening tomorrow at the gallery. All those came from editorial sales aviation magazines. It all just grows. It's not just here or there. It's all these blocks that you assemble to get up to that point. And that's really important to understand. So editorial marketplace, how do you get noticed there? Well, there's two ways. You want the consistent way that you can work. That means you have to create the photo text package, what most people call an article. Now, when I say that, most people go, I can't write, ah, right? And they start screaming and they go, I can't do it. Okay, have you ever read my writing? Okay, I can't write either, right? It's kind of a grammatical nightmare. That's because I think God gave us editors just for people like me who will fix my writing, okay? Because fixing the written word, pretty simple, right? But the photograph, if you've got the photograph, you know, there's no fixing needed. It's a done deal. They just have to deal with the words. Now, here's the great thing. Most people don't realize this, and if you're not in the business, okay, right, then you wouldn't know some of this trivia. And I got lots of trivia. First and foremost, article length, okay, is governed by basically two things. One, advertisers, and two, this is going to really, you know, maybe rock your boat, it's by sitcoms, you know, TV sitcoms. What is the attention span of the viewer for a sitcom? It directly influences the length of an article. So when I started out, the basic sitcom was about 23 minutes. Now they're down about 18 minutes. You know, remove all the commercials, you got about 18 minutes of content. So articles have gotten less and less and less. Now I've had a number of folks request, I should say photo buyers request, you know, articles at 800 word length. 800 words, that's one page. Maybe a page and a paragraph. That's not many words. But here's the thing, with those words, each word has to count for 10. Now, when you do all this, you kind of put all this stuff together, all right? The photographs and the text, that text photo package. How do you get it in the hands of the buyer? Now, let me stop for a second. I see a little technical glitch going on. I see some weird colors going in and out. Sorry about that. I'm in a room in the wireless. I might have an issue. I'm not sure. And I've got a fluorescent light that's over there that's kind of got a weird pulse rate. So if you see color changes, my apology. I'm not in my controlled space in the office. And hey, Spencer, great to have you over from UK. At least I'm assuming you're in the UK. So appreciate you tuning in. Now, we're back to getting your photographs noticed in the editorial marketplace. Now, this is where you have to actually, and I'm going to tell you, break the norm you might be reading on the web and stuff, is you have to reach out to the photo buyer. They don't know you exist. So going back to that, have you ever seen a photograph in a magazine that you say, yeesh, right? Or I've got better. The only reason why your picture's not on that page is because they don't know you exist. Most, and probably the vast majority of our personal editorial clients that we work with, who I talk to all the time, they don't go out to the web looking for photographs for a lot of reasons. Mostly is that time. They don't have time to go out and search and then to hope that they're going to find the photograph and then you've got the photograph that has the quality they need. They have their pool of people they work from and that's where they get their photographs. How do you get part of that pool? You reach out to them. So if you ever kind of watch me like, oh, this is got, don't stalk me, okay? But if you know in a Barnes and Noble or many other bookstores or the news rack like at Denver Airport, I'm looking at those magazines constantly. And I'm looking at new magazines for me. So published over 140 magazines worldwide. Finding magazines is more and more of a challenge, but I keep looking for those magazines. You go to the news rack, okay, and if you're totally brand new, here is a complete new world for you. Now, keep in mind that the first magazine you pick up that you submit to should not be National Geographic, all right, or Outdoor Photographer. Because, hey, you know, in the beginning, you're going to be green. Your photographs might not be top-notch. Your writing won't be top-notch. Your package won't be top-notch. So as you start learning, you want to start out kind of at the bottom and work your way up. I think it's really kind of important to understand that. That's why, for example, like I said, it took me over 6 years for me to first get published. But the publication I was in, the very first one, it opened all the doors. So you kind of want to play your cards correctly. And that's really important to think about. I don't want to say that like haste makes waste or slow and easy wins the race kind of thing. But if you want a consistent means of getting your photograph out there with a long-term goal of getting noticed more often by more people with more satisfaction, you kind of have to take it slow and easy in the beginning. Let's see here. I see Andrew. Hey, Moose, I took your advice and got the Mindshift bag. Cool. I don't know which Mindshift bag you got, but I'm glad it worked for you. Those guys make a great selection, including our MP series. Now, back to getting noticed. When I first started out, and the person actually was my very first editor I worked with that published a text photo package, he said a lot of things are very important to me. The first and foremost was you got to make every word in your text count for 10 words. That was very important. And then my mentor, Pete, when I was the nature columnist, or editor, I should say, over at Pop-Up Photographer, he gave me another piece of advice that was very important I like to pass on to people, and is write from your files. Okay? Now, what does that advice mean? Well, if we take that in conjunction with the each word counts for 10, okay, a lot of photographers, when they write their articles, they write about things like, for example, you know, it was a beautiful blue sky day when they're looking outside and they live in the North Pole and all they see is snow. And they're talking about this beautiful blue sky day, which means things like grass and sun and all that kind of stuff. But they don't have that picture in their files. All I got is snow. So if you write about something that you don't have in your files, you could be causing yourself a loss of sale. And I'll explain that in a second. So what we want to do is we want to basically create holes with our words that only our photographs can fill. That's the key in that text photo package. Let's see here, Lee. Oh, Andrew. Oh, you got the MP1 V2. Yeah, it's a great bag. I pound mine to death, so it'll serve you well. Now, that text photo package, right? You want to sit there and you want to sculpt the words that tells the story that you want to get across, but also at the same time create a spot where the photo buyer has to use your photograph. That's the key. You don't want them going out and say, oh, this is a great text, but there's no photographs to illustrate it and have to go out and find them, which is part of their job. You want to deliver both, and that's really important part of that process is that you bring the words and the photographs together and meld them into a piece that you can deliver to that photo buyer. Now, how do you find that photo buyer? You go to those news racks, okay, and you start looking for magazines that are covering the topic that you want to talk about. Now, the thing is, the way you look at magazines is not logical. So, I'm a wildlife photographer. That's my main bread and butter. Has been for 40 years. So when getting those kind of text photo packages put out there, most people think of things like, you know, for example, Outdoor Photographer magazine, or, you know, they think of National Geographic or something like that. Which, you know, once you get somewhere, that might be a venue for you. But what about things like golfing? Now, in the United States, golfing and golfers see tons of wildlife on the golf course. And those magazines typically run articles on wildlife. So if you're a wildlife photographer, but you're not a golfer, you might not know that piece of trivia to go and pick up the golf magazine, open it up, and send them your text photo package. Because they just scarf up wildlife stuff. They really do. So you gotta have to have a kind of a wide vision here when you look for articles. Another great venue for your stuff are in-flight magazines for all the different airlines. They do everything from travel to photography, how-to. You know, you start collecting these magazines, and you can just take your iPhone. You know, that's real common. Just take your iPhone, go take a picture of the masthead, and you have all your information. But I tend to buy a copy of that magazine. That way I have a reference to see the kind of photographs they use, the link to the article. You start doing that homework. And that's really an important part of this whole process. Now, you might be saying, okay, you know, I'm not really that outgoing. I don't want to do that kind of homework. Is there an easier way? And that's probably one of the most common questions. Is there an easy way to do this? I don't know of an easy way to do this. Success in this industry is never easy. And if you're at our office, you find out that the phone isn't always ringing. We have to call them. We have to ring their phone. That's really an important part of this process, because those photo buyers, they've got real jobs, which only in part is to go out and get that photograph. So let's just say in the perfect world, you've got your words, you've got your photographs, you've got your text photo package, you've got in mind that magazine you want to send to. So just sending that off by email, okay, not what I'm going to recommend to you in the beginning. You want to make sure you put your best foot forward. And nothing says this is important and open it now and that I care, that you should care, like a FedEx envelope. You know, FedEx overnight or second day, express saver. But anyway, not FedEx ground, FedEx express. Put in the hands of that photo buyer tells them that you think what you've got inside is the cat's meow. Now here's the thing. It's really important to understand this. Let me emphasize it. Say it slowly and succinctly. Photo buyers look at photographs. Photo buyers look at photographs. They want to see photographs. So have you ever read the article where it says you should send a query letter before you send anything? What's the real #1 problem with that horrible myth? You're going to send what? A letter of words to someone who looks at photographs? What do you think is going to happen? Yep. Next. Yep. They don't read those query letters. Because then what? You expect them to take their time and write you back saying, oh, I think your query letter is delightful. Please send me your photographs. Right? Come on. They don't have time for that kind of stuff. You've got to constantly push that ball forward and take the bull by the horns, okay? So when you send that stuff in, you're going to send everything simply. These days, I would send everything on a Blu-ray or, a DVD. But if you have a DVD and you hold it up, can a photo buyer see your photographs? They can't, right? They'd have to put it in something and then come on the monitor. And then their monitor, which would have their email and other stuff that's going on, that's more important, they have to say, okay, am I going to give up my important stuff, this guy's photographs? You know, what's the trade-off here? Most of the time, you're probably going to lose, especially when you are brand new. This means you have to be able to print. And that's instantly another little, like, next to writing words, printing is what scares a lot of people. But you need to send them what's called a match print. It's an actual term in the industry. And the match print means they could take your photograph on this printed page, compare it to the image on their printed page, and they match print. So if you were to sit there and send them the files, of course, but create a match print, and I think if you put 4 images on an 8x10 sheet of paper, that's really quite big enough for these people. They're professionals, they can see it. And if you send them that on nice, glossy, like Epson metallic glossy paper or premium luster paper, if you send them on that, because it'll have the same kind of shine as their magazine paper, you'll get their attention, because they'll open up the envelope, they'll forget the DVD, they'll forget the text, they won't look at the cover letter, they look at the photographs, they go, oh wow, that's cool. Hello, let me give you money. And that's what you want. All right. Now, with that going on, understand that you're probably, the very first time you submit something, you're going to say it's your best. It's going to be your best for that moment, but it's not your best. And that's okay, all right? That's part of the process. And because at the end of this whole thing here in 20 minutes, I'm going to tell you something that's going to, like, you're going to go, wow, never thought of that, and why this is so important in getting your photographs noticed. So you're going to sit there, you can get all this stuff done, and now you have to figure out who you're going to send this to. A common question is, okay, if I send it to magazine A, can I send it to magazine B as well, and maybe C? Now, some photographers do that, and that's okay, all right? Personally, I never what we call regurgitate anything. So if I send it to magazine A, all right, it won't go anywhere until magazine A says, I'm either going to print it or not print it. If they're going to run that article, it's a done deal, okay? It won't go to any other publication in the United States. Will it go over to Europe? Sometimes it will. Will it go to another language like German? Yes, it will. But as far as that article in the United States, it'll never run again after I run it in that one magazine. So that's my own personal standard. Now, if magazine A doesn't run it, I'll send it to magazine B, and we'll start the process over again. And if B doesn't run it, we'll go to magazine C. Now, have I ever had any piece that I've generated, as far as the photographs and text, never get used? I actually have one. I have one article that 2 years ago I wrote on Porterfield aircraft. Went through everybody I could think of. Nobody won it for various reasons. Otherwise, everything that I've created over my 40-year career has been used. Will some of these things be used for free? Okay. Yeah, they will sometimes. Is that good or bad? Well, you have to make that call. Now, when people say we're going to do this and it's good for you for exposure, cut and run. When people say, hey, I want it for free, but you'll have great exposure, hey, great exposure is for my photographs, not for my business. It doesn't work that way. Now, can you craft an article that will get you noticed to the clientele you want to work with? And in that case, it was free good. Well, my very first article ever done, the text photo package on the Lee Spells Vario, was for the State of California magazine, which is free. The thing is, that magazine went to all the biologists in California. It was instant recognition, by these people that I was out there and I was doing photography that was scientific, anecdotal, quality data in my pictures. So I got a lot of work from that, which still from this day pays dividends. So you kind of have to think that through, and it'd be nice if we had a Ouija board or a crystal ball to figure out now what's going to work in 10 years, because sometimes it takes that long for a benefit to come out, but you got to think about that stuff. And it's a little bit of a task, especially when you work a 9-to-5 job, but if I can do it, anybody can do it. Let's see here. Hey, Don. Well, thanks for coming by. And remember, the rebroadcast is coming later. I'm sitting here looking at comments in case you don't have comments set up. So, okay. Now, let's say you've got your first article done, okay? Your second article done. And keep in mind that as you do more and more, you might think it gets more and more difficult. It actually gets easier. By people who go out shooting with me, for example. From things I'm seeing around as we're taking pictures, conversation I'm hearing, I come up with articles just boom, 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 boom. It's really simple to do. And the way that happens is the fact that I'm constantly immersed in the news, okay? Be it CNN, Fox, those different things, NPR. So I'm keeping an ear out for current trends. I'm also reading a lot. And all that input, I kind of see where things are heading as far as the trends are. And I'm able to sit there and kind of gear some of my pieces in that way. Now, in the last 10 years, I have gotten much more involved in the aviation editorial business than wildlife for a couple reasons. One, my own personal passion has gotten to be into more of the history when it comes to aviation, and two, the wildlife part. I can tell you personally that I think wildlife is getting much more of a challenge for somebody like myself because I'm not photoshopping and cropping my pictures. So the older photo buyers who had those standards are slowly retiring, and the new ones have no problem with that stuff. Where back in the 80s, there used to be in the caption, right in the caption of the photograph, it would say if it was a captive or a wild critter. I mean, the standards when I started out totally different from today. So the other thing is that, hey, point blank on the table, aviation pays one hell of a lot more than wildlife photography when it comes to editorial or any other aspect. As I tell a lot of people, I can make $5,000 doing aviation in 15 minutes, and it's not a rock or a rabbit on the planet that's going to pay that much. So the basic economics. So that aviation, that's just been really cool. At the same time, the aviation, the number of magazines available worldwide for aviation is about 25 to 1 when it comes to wildlife. So there's 25 aviation magazines, and there's this little one wildlife. So there's a huge demand for pieces, and that's really important. Let's see here, Joe. Would you touch on some suggestion for publishing a tabletop book? A suggestion? I don't have a suggestion. So in the industry, books are considered a glorified business card. Point blank, royalties that you, the author of a book, in a general marketplace gets paid is around $1 per copy sold. So if you sell 10,000 copies, you're going to make $10,000. All right. Now, when you think about, okay, to put it into context, what I'm talking about. So, for example, the book Takeoff, doing really well. You know, my most popular books have about 100,000, 110,000 copies sold over their lifetime, which is 10, 12 years. Now, when I'm writing that book, articles aren't happening. The basic bread and butter, and I haven't for the last few months because dealing with the slack of when I was writing Takeoff. But typically, I have 5 or 6 articles each month that are coming out in print, and those articles, $500 to $2,000 per article. So if I am not writing articles and I do a book, there's going to be 6 months I'm not producing those articles to produce the book. But if you're making $5,000 a month in editorial sales, which one, just do a simple math between the book and the articles, is going to pay more bills? Will that book get you more business? I can only talk for ourselves personally, and we have no photo buyers that go, oh, hey, I saw your book, I want to buy your pictures. It doesn't work that way. So when it comes to coffee table book, it's a great business card, and for about this long, it makes your ego feel good. And then after you see all the productivity that didn't happen, and for myself especially, once those photographs are in a book, they're kind of like dead because now they're out there. Everybody can see them. They're nothing new. You really want to have that story out there to do that book. So coffee table books. I have personally never done one for all those reasons, and for a whole lot more. It's just a personal thing. You got to understand that if you, to get those books, and I've had, 28, 29 books published now, to get to those books, especially the first book, you have to be proven a photographer and a writer. And how do you prove that? By making it through the editorial process and getting that tear sheet. Oh, the tear sheet. I should tell you about that little phrase. The tear sheet is literally, if you got your magazine open and you tear out that page that has your article on it, that's a tear sheet. So tear sheets are kind of important. It's you're proving yourself that you have made it in the editorial world, which is really hard. Now, the one thing that I think is the most important part about getting your photograph noticed and going through the editorial process that people don't think about, but I want to make sure I plant the seed, is that the photo buyer, the photo editor, the person that's going to look at your photographs, that's going to be your best, most important, influential, accurate instructor, mentor you're ever going to find when it comes to your photography. I mean, they are the best. Now, are they brutal? Yeah, they're you know, when I sit there and talk about people's photographs, I'm talking from the point of view of hearing things from photo buyers for 40 years. And they cut right to the quick. They tell you if that photograph is strong or weak, if you've got problems or you have successes or you have a style that you should work on. I mean, these people, they make their whole living at looking at a photograph and saying, this photograph should be on the page of the magazine because it's the one that works. Now, those photographs that you see that you have better or out of focus, why are those in there? Because that was the only option the photo buyer had at that moment. And deadlines are deadlines. They have to, you know, fill that hole. So sometimes they have to use subpar photographs. But if you deliver in that text photo package above par photographs, you will continually have more and more publication and clients. And that's really the goal. Because once you get that tear sheet, the doors fly open. You can sit there and you'd be surprised if you want to do that tabletop book, the chances of getting it with that tear sheet are immeasurable compared to with no tear sheet where you probably won't get noticed. The other thing too is that long-term part of this process, which, you know, that's really kind of, I want to encourage people to do, because I know for a fact that your photograph can change this world. I mean, it's proven daily. But, you know, to do that long-term thing, you have to kind of like bite the bullet in some of this. You've got to go slow and easy. You have to refine everything you do. But understand that in this whole process, the one thing that's always going to improve, whether you succeed or don't succeed with the editorial marketplace, is your photography. Your photography will constantly grow in this process. And as you get better and better as a photographer, those growths, those improvements come at smaller and smaller increments and are more and more of a challenge. But that's okay. That's part of the process. So in getting your photographs noticed, I want to, you know, not disencourage you from using things like Instagram, what have you. But I can tell you personally that there's only one, no, I think it's two now, 2 times in all the history of our website, okay, which has been online since 1994, only 2 times has a photo buyer said, hey, I saw a photograph on your website, I want to use it. Twice. Now you think how, you know, prolific, and people call me prolific when it comes to getting editorial publications. I am getting my photographs out. What are the odds of you just starting out finding that buyer through the website? So social media, that's not where most editorial photo buyers live. You have to go out and find them, which means taking some homework, getting out there and figuring it out, and having that photograph and text and words to show them. Let's see here. I'm not seeing any other questions, and that kind of wraps up what I wanted to talk about tonight when it comes to getting your photographs noticed. Understand that the success that we have enjoyed and continue to enjoy is because I still live in that editorial marketplace. And I just want to encourage you to remember you can do it too. Simple little math, okay? So publications were like this, growing up to about 2005, 2006. Then they kind of, and then ebooks and e-magazines came out and kind of digital. And now that's really flattened out. So magazines are going back up again. A lot more magazines being put out there, a lot more. So in the United States, it's approximately about 6,900 magazines published each month. So let's just make it easy for ourselves. Let's just say 7,000. 7,000 magazines. Now, if each magazine only needed 10 photographs, and you know darn well that magazines use more than 10 photographs, But if those 7,000 magazines needed 10 photographs each, how many photographs is that? Really, that's a boatload. That's a lot of photographs. Now, if you've got somebody like myself and Sharon and WRP, in a really good month, we're going to have, between 50 and 70 photographs out there in print magazine. And let's say you have 100 companies like us that are out there doing that. Are we even making a scratch in the editorial market need for 1 month? They're starving for good material, starving for it. Just look at the numbers, okay? Bears out all that information. You can do that. You can be part of that. You just got to think about it. Remember, it's all about the photograph, okay? Words aren't really important. The photographs are. And then putting that stuff in the right person's hand. And remember, if you get rejected, rejection has nothing to do with you or your photography. It doesn't work that way. The rejection simply means that at the moment that hit the photo buyer's desk, they didn't have a need for it. And if you're smart, when you get rejected, you can get on the phone and say, hey, Mr. Photo Buyer, Mrs. Photo Buyer, I really appreciate you looking at my photographs. Appreciate you, taking time to tell me, that it's rejected. But can you tell me something? What about the photographs? Was there a problem with the photographs? Were there pluses or minuses that you could share with me so I could grow? You'd be surprised how even the busiest photo buyer, when you come to them pretty humbly and ask for honest opinion, they're going to give it to you. And that is worth more money than any article you'll ever get paid. So hopefully this all helps you. Get your photographs noticed, because you'd be surprised how your photographs can change the world. Well, I want to thank you for coming in and coming by this year. I say I got a couple questions. Don, very fortunate to be a published photographer. Lots of hard work combined with a chunk of luck. But I've got my tear sheets. Well, congrats, Don. Keep doing it. Don't stop. Keep doing it. It's a good thing. John says, do you think plugins like Topaz On One or Nik filters are helpful or hinder the quality of the photo? That's a really, really good question, John. So a piece of trivia. So when digital first came out, I was come to wildlife on the whole globe. And when it came to getting digital printed in a magazine, there was a lot of really hard feelings about it. Back then it was called electronic file. And the file quality blew chunks. And so when the head boss looked at this page and saw this picture, it was just looked like, crud. They're like, why is that picture in my magazine? So to answer your question, I have had many photographs published that use like Nik, okay, or Luminar. The thing is, if the quality is there when you went clicking the camera and you sat there and you finished and not fixed, then you shouldn't have a problem. The number one thing that I hear from photo buyers is that photographers just crop what is a microdot and they try to make it fill the frame and things fall apart. I'll never forget the first photograph. It was well within my first start of submissions, sent to a photo buyer, and it was, I read this article, and this is probably back in 1988, 1999, and talked about having a tree limb going across and to frame the photograph. And this photo buyer, she got the picture. She goes, "What? This is the best you could do?" And it's like, okay, framing with a branch, not a good idea. Out, because that photograph, right? That space it takes on that page, that's real estate. And every little bit of that real estate has to make money. So if you got a branch going across the top of the frame, what's it doing for telling the story? It just means you couldn't get your act together to get the elements arranged correctly. So, it really comes down to how you take the picture. And that's why I have the standards I have for my own photography. It's because it's what's demanded of my photo buyers, my clients, to keep making that money come in. Sir Andrew says, how do you target the right photo buyers? Well, Andrew, part of that, is you're doing the homework there at that newsstand, looking at those photographs. Let's say, for example, you pick up a magazine and you look at the photographs, and they're all kind of bright and cheery and happy, right? That wouldn't be a magazine that I would personally submit to, because most of my photographs have a mood to them, and they're not, happy little, they're kind of darkish, moodish. So right off the bat, there's not a good, meld there between my photographs and that magazine. Now, if I pick up another magazine and the images are kind of, moody and have some real teeth to the color and the exposure, and it has a content that's same kind of content as my photographs, that's a magazine I'm going to, submit to. And that's definitely part of the learning process. There's that and so many more things. But it's a great question. So you already have that in your mind. You'll probably do just fine. It's important to ask those kind of questions. Well, folks, hey, I got up hit the road at 1 a.m. to get to the airport to get to Tampa, and tomorrow's a big day, the gallery opening. Remember that there will be a webcast. If you can't join us in person, I hope you do that there. In the meantime, I want to thank you for joining me again this evening. We'll try to have another broadcast in 2 weeks. And remember to make every click your story. Thanks, guys. Be well.